Hey, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Got my cup of coffee here. Our 50th anniversary mug. Little tiny logo, probably really hard to see. But it's nice for a small cup this Wednesday morning where we spend a few minutes together as we've been trying to look at the big picture story of the entire Bible. No small task. And we are in the book of Joshua. Joshua is the one who succeeds Moses. Moses has led the people to the very edge of the promised land. He dies. Joshua takes over. Be strong and courageous was God's instruction to him, as we talked about last week. And today we find him on the verge of his first battle against Jericho. Now, we've missed something. One of the significant things that happens in the early part of the book of Joshua is the children of Israel have to cross the Jordan River. And it's at flood stage, and God miraculously parts the Jordan River. The priests go into the middle of the river. The people cross on dry land. All of this reminiscent of the Red Sea, a sort of a validation of who Joshua is as the leader. And they set up a marker there to remind them of God's faithfulness just as they're about to go into the promised land and begin the process of conquest. And the first stop on that tour is Jericho, as Elvis famously sang about many years ago, Joshua and the Battle of Jericho. And so Joshua is there. It's his first huge test militarily. It's going to be something that is probably pretty intimidating to him. This is not an army that he leads. This is a bunch of people who have wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Who knows what sort of armaments, who knows what sort of training they have. A whole generation has died off, and now a new generation comes. And Joshua is there just outside the city of Jericho, this imposing city with its walls, all that is in front of them. And Joshua chapter 5 has a very fascinating moment for me that I wanted to point out. And it's Joshua there with all of this as the backdrop, the battle looming, when he looks up and it says he sees a man standing in front of him with a sword in his hand. Now, if you're about to go into some sort of battle, that would be something you would take notice of. There's a man in front of you with a sword in his hand. And Joshua asked the absolutely most important question. It says in Joshua 5:13, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" Now, if there's somebody there with a sword and you're leading a bunch of people that might not be that well armed, equipped, or trained, and you see somebody with a sword, you need to know, are they against me or are they for me? And so that's exactly what Joshua asked. But here's the point, and there's a lot of points I could make, but let me just say it this way. When you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. And Joshua actually asked the wrong question. Is it the natural question? Absolutely. It's the question anybody would have thought to ask. It makes sense that is the exact question he asked. But in this case, it's the wrong question, because the answer from this man with a sword in his hand is rather striking. Neither. Now, I would have not considered that an option. We live in an either-or culture. You're either for me or against me. It's either this or that. And so the idea that in this kind of dichotomy of choices, is this man with a sword looking like he's ready for battle? Is he on our side or is he opposed to us? Those seem like the only two options. And yet this man says neither. But what he says next is even more important. He says, as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. He says, I'm not on your side. I'm not against you. That's not even the right question, because I come representing the Lord. And the word here for Lord is that covenant name that we have learned from the burning bush, the name Yahweh, the I am God. That is what he says. I come as the commander of the army of the Lord. And Joshua fell face down on the ground because he said that, and asked him, what message does my Lord have for your servant? And then what he said is really remarkable. The commander of the Lord's army replied, take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. And Joshua did so. The place where he is, take off your sandals. We see Joshua's early leadership of Israel having these hints of who Moses is and what Moses had experienced. Because Moses at the burning bush, when he gets God's revelation that he is Yahweh, the covenant God, the I am God, one of the things that he tells Moses is take off your shoes for the ground is holy. And here Joshua gets the same message. The Lord, the commander of the Lord's army, appears to Joshua and says, take off your sandals for the ground you're standing on is holy. This is a hugely important moment in Joshua's life. And there's a lot of implications that we can take from that. First of all, as I said already, if you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. The question that Joshua needed to ask in this moment wasn't, are you for us or against us? The question he needed to ask is, am I for what God is doing? And that's the question that's most important for all of us. As I live my life, as I face decisions, as I consider alternatives, whatever they may be, the question isn't, is God for this or against this? The question is, am I following the Lord in this decision? See, God doesn't come to take sides. Israel had every right to think God should be on their side. After all, the history of God's activity in their midst points to that. God who revealed himself, God who delivered them miraculously from Egypt, God who led them across the Red Sea on dry land, God who drowned the army of Pharaoh in that same sea after they crossed, God who took them to the foot of Mount Sinai and who appeared in thunder and lightning and fire and smoke on the top of that mountain, who gave them his law, his commandments, who etched it with his own hands, God who had been with them as they traveled, who said, if you build a tabernacle, I will dwell among you, God who by a pillar of cloud or a pillar of fire by day or night led them everywhere they were to go, including through the wilderness for 40 years, God who had been with them. God, if there's any people that the right answer to this question, are you with us or against us, should have been God saying, yes, I am with you, reminds us we can't take that for granted. If Israel could not take for granted that God was with them and had to rearrange their thinking, the issue wasn't, is God on our side? The issue is, are we following God as he leads us? Are we, maybe put another way, on his side? Joshua needed that reorientation. I think it was Tony Evans, it might have been somebody else, but I like how he summed this up. He says, in this moment we learn that God does not come to take sides. God comes to take over. And that's the lesson Joshua needed to learn. Before there's a battle plan, before there's any kind of strategy given, before there's confidence saying, yes, I'm for you and I'm going to defeat the enemy, the first step Joshua needed to take was worship. And he falls on his face in reverence. He takes off his shoes because he's on holy ground and recognizes that this God doesn't come for him, that Joshua needs to show his allegiance to this God. Joshua needs to show his worship to this God. And that is the thing that we need to do as well. We often come to God and we say, God, will you bless what I want to do? God, I'm facing this decision. I'm buying this house. I'm taking this job. I'm doing whatever. God, will you bless it? It's the wrong question. God, are you for us, for me, or against me? Is the wrong question. The right question is, Lord, am I doing what you're calling me to do? Have I prostrated myself in worship before you? Have I lived a life of obedience that desires to follow you? Not to have you come and bless what I want and what I hope is right, but seeking you totally, wholeheartedly, and allowing you to bless as I follow your leadership. This is what Joshua needed to know. And because he recognized who God was, because he was willing to submit himself in worship, God blessed and took the people of Israel forward in these battles and overthrew Jericho in the most unusual way. It's a fascinating thing. Read Joshua chapter 6 about the Battle of Jericho and how it happens. It's not a great military strategy. They don't teach this in any sort of military training. This isn't something that would have made the top 10 list of people today look at Joshua chapter 6 and say, this is how we're going to fight with candles and yelling and marching. It doesn't make any sense. But that's exactly what God did. And Joshua needed to say, okay, it's not about God blessing my efforts. It's me humbling myself before God and following him, even if and when his instructions may not make a lot of sense to me. Joshua learned that lesson very early in this, and it's a lesson we all have to learn. Victory begins not with the best battle plan, not with our might and our strategy, but with worship and obedience and allowing God to do what only he can do. And Joshua did that. Certainly, as we go through our life, we can learn that. And the message of the Scriptures is just that. When Jesus comes and brings to us the ultimate God with us, God among us, when we see his life and have the record of his ministry, we're reminded of a man who lived an upside down life. If you want to be great in my kingdom, be a servant. If you want to follow me, take up the cross, deny yourself. The things that Jesus teaches us, the Beatitudes of the kingdom in Matthew 5 about poor in spirit and mourning and hungering and thirsting for righteousness, being meek, being pure in heart, being persecuted as moments where God's blessing, God's favor is upon us, God's presence and protection dwells on us, are upside down to our way of thinking. And the only way we get the truth of what it means to be one of God's children is to learn like Joshua did. It's not whether God's for or against me, it's whether I am aligning myself with him. And I hope that you are in your life. And when we get together on Sundays or Wednesdays or any other time, that's what we talk about. How we can learn to more put ourselves in line with who God is, what he's doing in the world, and how we can be part of his kingdom work and receive the victory that he has ultimately won for us through Jesus, but works out as he works in our life. We'd love for you to join us. We'd love for you to learn with us. We'd love for you to grow with us as we seek every day to get a little more understanding of who God is and what he's revealed himself to be. So Sundays, 9 o'clock is our main service. We have other opportunities for Bible studies and different things, and we're ramping some things up in the next few months. So hope you'll stick around. Hope you'll join us. Hope you'll come worship with us. And hope you'll take this journey of faith as we come to learn more about the God who revealed himself to people like Moses and Joshua and ultimately to us through his son Jesus. So I'm going to leave it there. I got a lot to do today and got a little bit of coffee yet to finish. So let me finish my coffee. Let you get back to your day. And I hope to see you around here, maybe on Sunday at 9. If not, we'll touch base again next Wednesday. Thanks, everyone.